Leithanien, the center of the study of Originium arts on Terra, home of many proficient arts users. In this video I'll be talking about the history of Leithanien. Warning, massive spoilers for Lingering Echoes event ahead. Don't watch this video if you don't want to be spoiled. Part 1, Leithanien's background. Some political background. Leithanien is a country made up of several semi-independent nomadic cities. Each Leithanien district is governed by a noble who lives in a magical tower, referred to as a spire. It's famous for its academic studies on Originium arts and use of arts-based technologies. We can see this in in-game mechanics, such as the gramophone from Twilight of Wolyamon that deals arts damage to enemies, and the enemies in Lingering Echoes that can deal arts ATK. As a result of this, Leithanien has a kind of arts supremacy, being well known for their talent for using arts. In fact, as of this video, all Leithanien operators in Rhodes Island are all arts users. However, this has caused a wide social divide, against firstly, non-arts users, and secondly, the infected. Deacon Brecker is one such example of discrimination against non-arts users. She is a Caperni born in Leithanien, and although she has made a great name for herself as a warrior who does not need to use arts, her journey was not an easy one. Though she demonstrated unparalleled physical capabilities since young, she was ridiculed for her complete inability to use arts. And the other cost for Leithanien's incredible arts technologies, has to do with the infected. This is the much darker side of Leithanien's history. Part 2, the Witch King's rule. This mostly arose from the rule of the Witch King, who was once an ordinary man and a good ruler, but upon studying deeper into the use of Originium arts, lost his faculties, and gradually turned into a monster, a tyrannical overlord drunk on power. He started a reign of terror over Leithanien, lasting for 60 years, and the lingering effects of his rule still cast a shadow over Leithanien today. The Witch King was the most powerful caster in the history of Terra, due to both his natural arts talent, and the extensive study on arts he did, which was said to be the reason for his descent into insanity, from being a once kind and benevolent ruler. The atrocities he committed were many, using his own Leithanien subjects as nothing more than lab rats to study more about arts. And when the nobles supplying the Witch King with infected test subjects ran out of infected, they started infecting regular citizens with Originium crystals to turn them infected. He actively caused many international affairs such as harassing Colombia through Bolivar, which is still a puppet state of Leithanien until today, embroiled in a bloody civil war. The Witch King was also the cause for the War of the Four Nations, which eventually resulted in the destruction of the Gaulish Empire. Leithanien was successful in repelling the invaders, although the country's infrastructure and its residents were greatly harmed during the war. Yet the Witch King continued his relentless, bloody rule. The Witch King's rule finally came to an end in the year 1077. Part 3, the Twin Empresses. In September of 1077, an uprising was initiated against the Witch King and his regime of fear. With the uprising's support, the heroic duo, later on known as the Twin Empresses, slew him and took over the throne of Leithanien as its co-rulers. However, even with the death of the Witch King, his shadow continues to follow Leithanien and its citizens. Till this day, Leithanien citizens are still afraid to refer to him by name, and understandably so, as seen in Lingering Echoes when Hibiscus mentions his name without thinking much of it. This is also partly because the Witch King had a group of loyal followers, nicknamed the Remnants. When he was killed by the Twin Empresses, they continued to follow his ways and study his arts. As mentioned in Lingering Echoes, there are broadly two types of these remnants. The first are more of his actual worshippers, believing in his ideals and the goals he had for Leithanien. While the second, like Gertrude Strahlo's father, simply adored the power he brought them, making Leithanien a truly feared country. Right after the Twin Empresses slew the Witch King, two notable incidents happened on both sides. Firstly, the Twin Empresses supporters, in a move not orchestrated by the Empresses themselves, carried out a bloody purge on every single one of the Witch King's relatives and descendants. Secondly, the remnants, unhappy that the Witch King was no longer on the throne, started a deadly project. The remnants wished to restore the Witch King back into power, searching for a way to even resurrect him, with the last of his living descendants, and using a musical arts that the Witch King created himself in the past, the voice of the mundane. This would also bring the Witch King back to power, overthrowing the Empresses as he would be the king of Leithanien by default. What exactly is the voice of the mundane? The voice of the mundane, originally translated as the voice of Terra, was described as a kind of musical arts in the form of a melody. In Lingering Echoes, it becomes clearer what exactly it is. It was a melody composed by the Witch King himself. The remnants believed that it had the power to quite literally resurrect the Witch King, consuming the victim and turning them into a second Witch King. Notably, this form of arts only worked on the Witch King's descendants. The remnants carried out their experiments, trying to forcefully implant the voice into the heads of the few survivors of the Witch King's bloodline, most of which were children. Most of these experimentations failed, killing the children one by one. As the number of descendants thinned, some of the remnants had second thoughts about the way they were sending off His Majesty's bloodline to their deaths, only to be shot down by a remnant caster who insisted that their deaths were a necessary price to pay to use the voice of Terra. Until at a point of time, there were only two of those children left. That is, Cried and Ebenals. The remnants let them choose which one to receive the next voice, and Cried volunteered first. Unfortunately, due to their imperfect knowledge on the voice of Terra, Cried received an imperfect version of the voice, and although he was the first to not die from the experimentation, he was no longer useful to the remnants. Afterwards, they experimented on Ebenals, and succeeded. However, not too long after, their hideout was raided by the Twin Empresses' people, seeking to eliminate the remnants. For Ebenals, this represented the start of his new life. The Twin Empresses took pity on him and restored some of his noble status, turning him into a figurehead of sorts with no power of his own. He's referred to as Graf Erdica, which can be translated to the Count of Erdica. Erdica is the place where the Witch King was born, and traditionally handed down to his lineage. Part 4, Present. I don't intend to make this a Lingering Echoes summary, so I'll be keeping this part as summarized as possible. Arknights has been seeking refuge in Leithanien, where she appears to be collaborating with some of the remnants and supporting them in their agenda to raise the Witch King again. At one point of time, she became Cried's music teacher and taught him how to play the cello, but was also keeping an eye on him due to his voice of the mundane. Cried and Ebenals meet at a concert at Leithanien, where through trials and tribulations they find out about their history of being the Witch King's only remaining descendants, and having a verse from the voice of the mundane implanted in their heads. Due to a devious plan, masterminded largely by Gertrude Strollo, but also involving other remnants and research about the Witch King, Cried absorbed both voices of the mundane into himself, which let the Witch King take over his mind, in order to save his friends and the lives of many more. Ebenals afterwards describes this possession as a melody that can swallow someone whole, and that he'll do his best to prevent it from happening again. He's forced to end Cried's suffering to save him. Ebenals and Cherny join Rhodes Island afterward, where Ebenals is given a new lease of life as a caster operator of Rhodes Island, and a death certificate of his time as the Graf Erdica. But Ebenals mysteriously disappears from Rhodes one day, with a very lengthy letter, link in the description, that suggests that he's tired of the Twin Empresses' hypocrisy, and takes it upon himself to end the lingering echoes of the Witch King's legacy on Leithanien. This, coupled with the Arknights and Viviana PV where Ebenals shows up as a shadow in the background, what does this mean for Leithanien? What are Arknights' goals, and is she actually trying to raise the Witch King again? Will Ebenals succeed in his goal to truly eliminate the lingering echoes of the Witch King that casts its shadow over him and Leithanien? We'll find out soon. Hopefully. So there you have it, a quick summary of Leithanien's history and how it may be relevant to the next event. Thank you so much for watching and see you in the next video.